shall we begin?
And hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Movie Pit Podcast. It is time for another roundup of movies, and this one's going to be a special one because I haven't done one of these since January, so it will be a catch-up of February and March because, say with me, I am a bad podcaster. Move this man! Hi, again, it has been a while. There is no excuse. I just haven't been podcasting as much as I should, and that's on me and no one else. And for that, I apologize. And I have this giant list of movies I'm gonna get through. I won't include the re-releases. I won't include the older movies that I've watched like I did in January. I just want to get through all these new movies that came out this year, talk about them, and move on because it's been an interesting 2 months, to say the least, in terms of my personal life. And I apologize for, not podcasting like I want to and like I should, because I want to keep doing this, and it just stuff gets in the way and stuff that I can't control. And I apologize for that. So let's move on. Let's just get to it. Again, sorry, I will not let that big of a break happen again this year. That's just too big of a break for any podcast to go on without any reasonable explanation. So, like I said, let's just get to the list because there's a lot of movies to get to. So we're going to start off with February. We're going to start off with Badland Hunters. This is on Netflix. It was a sci-fi post-apocalyptic Korean action movie. It's set years after an earthquake that pretty much destroyed everything and created a barren wasteland with small pocket towns here and there. The movie begins with a scientist on the verge of a breakthrough in his eyes to save his dying daughter when the earthquake hits. And then we fast forward a little bit and are introduced to our main characters, Nam-san, played by Don Lee, a former convict / boxer, his young apprentice, Ji-won, and a young woman that Ji-won has a crush on in Su-na. One day, a group of shady-looking people come to town to tell Soo-yeon she's been chosen to live in one of the only structural apartment buildings because she's young, and the, quote, young are the future in the movie. Of course, the shady people turn out to be shady, and it's up to Nam-san, Ji-won, and a former soldier, Eun-ho, who knows exactly what's going on to go and save Soo-yeon. The movie gets a little wacky at times, but never to the point where it's too outlandish and over the top, at least for me anyway. I don't know how your gauge of over the top and wackiness is, but for me it was fine. It knows what it is, and I feel like recently the sci-fi Korean movies released on Netflix are on board with going out there. They're on board with going a little, just borderline over the top, a little wacky. But they do it in such a way where it just, again, depending on your gauge, it doesn't go, it doesn't go past it. It doesn't go to the point where, okay, this is just ridiculous at this point. But at the end of the day, they're having fun with it. And I think that's what matters the most. Because if they're having fun with it, then you're most likely going to have fun with it too. The CG is a tad bit spotty in some places, but it's the practical effects, especially when it comes to the gore of the movie, that are very surprising and not what I was expecting when I was watching the movie. If anything, because the overall story is fine. Nothing great. It's nothing we haven't really seen before. The action is the spotlight here. There is a corridor set piece that is really good, and if anything, proves that we should be talking more about Don Lee. Now, Don Lee is a star in Korea. I think he's even a mega star, you can say, in Korea. And honestly, should be a star here in America too. And if you're like, who's Don Lee? Why do you keep talking about Don Lee? I don't know who Don Lee is. Biggest thing that maybe everyone knows him from, and the thing that I think got him the spotlight, is Train to Busan. He plays the big guy in the movie. And his American debut was The Eternals for Marvel. Other titles, if you want to check out more of Don Lee's stuff, the ones that I would recommend, the Roundup movies, which are very good. The first movie is actually called The Outlaws, and then they just started calling them the Roundup with like a little subtitle. The Gangster, the Cop, and the Devil's really good. Unstoppable is really good as well. He has a presence about him, and he's an international star, so he has that fan base that will follow him here to America. He can handle drama, he can handle action, and because of that corridor fight scene, that could basically be an audition for like the next John Wick spinoff, because he was very, very good. He can handle himself very, very well. It borderlines on going over the top, but it stays very, I don't want to say level, because there's some really outlandish things. It goes to a point, there's a point in the movie where you're either with the movie at that point, and if you're not with the movie at that point, I think when it gets to its twist, you're like, no, this is just, no, why? So if you can handle that, I think you'll be fine. If not, then, this movie may not entirely be for you. For me, it was fun. It was still a fun time to be had, but that's just me. The next movie, Drive Away Dolls. I want to preface this by saying a little story, but telling you a little story, rather. I saw this when I was out in LA with my brother in late February. And we saw this at the Universal City Walk Theater, which is, of course, the Universal City Walk or on Universal Studios, with all the shops and stuff. There's a movie theater there. Very, very cool. Very, they have standees and stuff of like costumes every now and then. Sometimes you'll have like a well-known or recognizable director walk in. I think Christopher Nolan's actually stopped by at the City Walk every now and then. Like, he's been spotted there. So it's by Universal Studios. It's very good theater if you're ever in the area and you want to go check out a movie before you go to this park or after you go to the park. That's fine. That's what we did. That's what my brother and I did. We went to the movie theater after we had already gone to Universal Studios, after getting an early entry that day, which is you get in like an hour before everybody else. And after we flew out to LA after multiple delays in our flights and getting our rental car. So we got to LA and then immediately the next day went to Universal Studios, which would be fine if it wasn't for all the delays. So we were both on about 2.5 hours of sleep, maybe 3 if depending on, I can't remember exactly now. But we were on very, very limited sleep when we got to the park and when we went to the movies. I didn't fall asleep. I want to definitely preface that by saying I didn't fall asleep. I did feel myself on the verge of nodding off every now and then while watching the movie. And this movie has a very short runtime. It's not, a 2-hour plus movie. I think it's less than an hour and a half. So I definitely want to give the movie another shot, to give it a real reaction. That said, my initial reaction of the movie when I watched it was that it was just okay. I liked a good chunk of the writing. The two leads, in Margot Qualley and Geraldine, I'm going to mispronounce her last name and I apologize, Viswanathan. I don't think that's how you pronounce it, but that's what I got for you. And Jamie and Marion were pretty good. They played two lesbian friends who want to get away from everything. Marion, because she is unhappy and a change of scenery could lead to that. And Jamie, because she went through a breakup with Bernie Feldstein's character in the movie, who's also a cop, that plays into the story a little bit. Of course, things don't go as planned because in the rental drive-away car is a briefcase that is wanted by some very powerful people. The reveal of what is in the briefcase was the last thing that I was expecting, and the last thing that people in my theater were expecting, because we all had a big laugh when it was revealed what was in the briefcase. It's not what you think it is. If you haven't read anything about it, it's out there. And the thing I know I wasn't a fan of, again, watching the movie for the first time, was the weird, there's random moments of like this weird like acid trip moments or like, psychedelic moments. And it turns out to be connected to the character, two of the characters that have very small roles in the movie. And it just took me out of it, and it slowed the movie down a lot. And again, I don't know if that was just because I was on the verge. Again, I only had like 2.5 hours of sleep or something along those lines. And, now I'm sitting here and going to a theme park and then, watching a movie. But, it kind of slowed that down. And that just, there was a lot going on. And then all of a sudden just a skirting stop to play these random moments. But again, I want to give it another shot because my initial reaction was it's just okay. And again, just everything that I already said and prefaced it. I don't want to use that as an excuse to be like, oh, this movie's not good or this movie is subpar. No, I want to give it a fair reaction, so I want to watch it again. But I did watch it, so I want to give you my initial reaction. And maybe I'll talk about this at a later date. The next movie I want to talk about, Lisa Frankenstein. The new movie written by Diablo Cody, of course, did Juno and Jennifer's Body. I think she also did Young Adult, if I remember correctly. And directed by Zelda Williams, the daughter of Robin Williams. This is not her directorial debut. She had done another movie and she had done some shorts and a music video, but she had done another movie at this point. So this is kind of her second movie. I think her first real studio movie, but it is not her directorial debut. Either way, it stars Catherine Newton as Lisa Swallows. Yes, that is her name, who is dealing with a lot of things in this movie. The murder of her mother, which we see, but doesn't really play a factor in the movie, which makes me think why it was in it in the first place. Her father, who is played by the father from Stranger Things, the kind of, we gotta trust the government, all that guy. I forgot to write down his name. But he is playing the father. I think he's playing the father in something else too, where it's very similar. So I was just that's his role now. That's just his role now. But her father is has remarried to Carla Gugino's character. Lisa moving from her school to a new school. And finally, the main thing is, of course, the main plot of the whole movie. A living corpse of an unknown man, played by Cole Sprouse, comes to life and enters her life. And, all mayhem and, love ensues. I was not the biggest fan of this movie. I appreciated what Williams and Cody were trying to do with the movie. But the more I thought about it and the more I let things kind of settle in, the more I just I couldn't overlook it. But first, I'm going to talk about the good stuff. There is good stuff in Lisa Frankenstein, even though I don't like it, because I always try to find things, even in the movies that I'm not a big fan of, that I do like. And Lisa Frankenstein does have some good qualities. It is campy, but it is a good, fun, cheesy campy. It knows what it is. It is darkly funny at times and never crosses its own line it makes. And I genuinely laughed multiple times at a lot of jokes. And at the moments that were supposed to be funny. And then there was other moments that, they thought were supposed to be funny and it just didn't work out. The thing that really holds the movie together for me is Catherine Newton. And Catherine Newton has pretty much now been that person you can rely on. She is reliable in anything that she does at this point. And her acting off Sprouse's The Creature, which is what he's credited as, and he doesn't say anything. The Creature does not say anything throughout the whole movie. And there's a reason why for that. She's very good. And the other person that's very good in this movie is Liza Sobrano, who plays Lisa's sister, Taffy. Yes, her name is Taffy. That character could have been the typical, bitchy stepsister, the one who doesn't believe her, the one who's just out to get her, the one who leaves her high and dry. But no, Taffy is, no pun intended, a very sweet character who truly does care for Lisa and even tries to get her out to socialize. She drags her out to a party and multiple times throughout the movie. And she's just one of those characters where you want her to, be okay. So that's what I liked about the movie. What I don't like about the movie, this is more of a dislike thing. This first point, rather. It's a blaring, obvious continuity thing. There is a scene in a hallway about halfway through the movie where you see a teacher in the background in a green dress walking away from our characters. And then, because the movie cuts, she magically reappears again, walking away in the same direction. Time has passed in terms of her walking away. So it's not one of those things where maybe she's walking slow. No, she was already walking off frame the first time. And then when you cut back to her, she is again walking away again. I noticed it and it bothered the hell out of me when I first saw it. Continuity things happen all the time. And sometimes you can spot them, sometimes you can't. This one was so blaringly obvious because it was the same woman. It was a bright green dress and you can completely tell that it was there, and it bothered me as soon as I saw it. So that's one point. Here's the main points that of things I disliked about the movie. And this is when we get into heavy spoilers. So if you've not seen Lisa Frankenstein, or you just don't care about spoilers or whatever, here's your spoiler warning. But, just in case you haven't seen it, just skip forward a little bit. I'll put a timestamp down below so you can tell. Are you gone? They're all gone? Okay, good. The creature. It gets revived when a weird lightning strike hits its grave, which they talk about. It's like a green landscape, and it's like a green lightning bolt. The sky goes green, and there's only a passing line about, hey, the sky went green, and then that's it. No, the sky goes green and there's a lightning bolt. You're gonna freak out and talk about that. Anyway, it hits his grave, the creature's grave, which has been visited by Lisa. We see Lisa at the gravesite, and she reads at his gravesite. She reads poetry, and she says, she's talks to him and does all this stuff. So when the lightning strike hits and the creature awakens, he somehow finds her and is all covered in dirt and mud, and he looks like a knockoff Swamp Thing, basically. And she tells him to take a shower. Now, we get a pretty cool drawn animation at the beginning. I probably should have put this in the things I liked. But it's a pretty cool drawn animation showing his life, the creature's life, before he, died. And you're thinking maybe it's like the, 1800s, early 1900s. So how does he know about showering? Like modern day showers at this point. Not only that, he puts on socks and a robe and everything. And it's okay, you can overlook that. Okay, right? You can overlook that. Now, Lisa rebuilds the creature. They figure out themselves a way. I forgot how exactly they figure it out, but they figure it out. That he can heal himself by getting electrocuted in a tanning bed that Taffy owns because she won it in some competition. So they have it in a shed in the backyard. So if they sew a limb on him and he goes to the tanning bed and he gets electrocuted, it heals him. That's fine. Again, that's the rule that the movie is establishing. We get different, parts. He gets different parts from different people, and it makes him even look healthier. He's really green and decayed and gray. And then the more he, heals himself, the more, his color in his face and his body is coming back. Still can't talk. They never replace his tongue or anything like that, so he can't talk throughout the movie. But the move that takes me out of it is that at one point he drives a car. He drives a car. Nothing in the movie shows that he can, or that he wasn't even in a car, so he can see Lisa, or doing what she needs to do to get the car going. He just drives it. They never showed him how. They never show him struggling. He's driving that car like nothing. He's always had a car. And I know it's probably a dumb thing to get annoyed and upset about, but if you're going to give us the rules of the movie, then follow them. But the stupid thing that bothered me is the ending. We get an ending with Taffy and her stepfather, because it's not her father. Carla Gugino is Taffy's mother. Carla Gugino doesn't make it through the movie, obviously. But she has a very small role in the movie, and it's kind of, sad. I wish they had, kept her on longer, because I think they could have really done something with her more, but they didn't. Whatever. That's fine. We get an ending that shows Taffy and her stepmother, Lisa's dad, visit Lisa's grave, because Lisa, quote unquote, dies in the movie because the cops get onto her and the creature and the missing people and Taffy herself in a scene that I'm so about, and it's played for comedy, but it's also comes out of so left field. Why would you do that to the character? That's not cool, but whatever. But at first we don't see what Taffy sees, because it's supposed to be a reveal. And then when they leave, the camera kind of lingers and it goes to a tombstone, and it says, Lisa Swallow's, beloved daughter. And then it says at the bottom, beloved wife. Because we see a scene when the creature proposes to Lisa by putting a pitch ring on her finger. And then we cut to a bench that we see earlier in the movie. I won't get into that plot line, but we see that bench, and it's the creature speaking in perfect English, because suddenly he can talk. He gets his voice back. I don't know how, but he gets his voice back. I can probably make an assumption of maybe what it is now after the fact, but when you're watching it, you're he can talk now? What? And then next to him, lying down and full of bandages is Lisa, because Lisa's dead now, and she is awakened just like him and Frankenstein, and they are together in this, loving relationship now, even though Lisa shows no affection toward him at all throughout the whole movie until the very end, when it becomes convenient that, she suddenly loves him now. But whatever. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the movie, mainly because of the small things, and I don't want to seem like I'm a pure hater of the movie. Like I mentioned, there was some things that I like, and there was a lot of things I didn't like, especially some pacing issues throughout the movie. I was not the biggest fan of the ending either. I guess if I'm really going to have to put my finger on it, I think I'm more frustrated with the potential of what this movie could have been. I did like the fun, campy, dark comedy route they took. It just lacked a certain something for me, I guess, if we're going to go down that route. All right, let's get to the other movie in February. I think this is the last movie in February that I'll have. Yes, this is the last movie in February that I have for you. And it's the big one. It's Madam Webb. So when I originally had the February Roundup by itself, I went into this, and I mean I really went into this to the point where I was like, I should just release a solo episode on Madam Web. I've toned it down a little bit from what it was, but yeah, it's Sony Pictures. What are you doing? What are you doing? I mean, we all know what you're doing, but why? Why are you doing it? Do you really need Marvel to hold your hand with the live action movies? Because you're killing it on the animated side. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, and soon to come Beyond the Spider-Verse, which I'm sure will be good. But on live action stuff, if it's not, a Spider-Man, like actual Spider-Man movie with Marvel, you guys aren't doing so hot. You made a movie I thought was worse than Morbius. And I know that's hard to do and hard to say, but in my opinion, you made a movie that was worse than Morbius. And now I am even more worried than I already was worried for Kraven the Hunter. Madam Web is a terribly put together movie. Even worse, and this might be the biggest offense of the movie, it is a waste of absolute potential. Not only that, we, the fans, the audience, know these are characters revolved around Spider-Man. So why the fuck are you afraid of saying his name? Sorry for the swearing. Why? It's the dumbest rule you have. It literally took me out of the movie. So in case you forgot, or don't care that I ruin this, there will be spoilers for Madam Web. Adam Scott, who plays Ben Parker, aka Uncle Ben, the best part of the movie, is taking care of his sister, Mary Parker, played by Emma Roberts, randomly. We didn't need Emma Roberts in the movie, but we do. We got her in like 3 minutes of screen time, 5 minutes of screen time, if you want to call it that, and is starting to see a woman, Ben Parker, but he never says her name. We know who it is. It's Aunt May. It's not a wink wink thing. It's more of a, just say it. We know who it is. Why are you doing this? Why are you hiding this fact? And the other annoying part, there is a baby shower scene that has found its way on Twitter. I have seen it. And they're playing this game about what Mary should call her baby if it's a boy. And before anyone can say the name Peter, a balloon pops in the middle of his name. Why are you hiding it? That's not like a smart thing. It's not like a guys. No, it's fucking dumb. Again, sorry for the swear. Why are you afraid of it? Sony? Like, we know these characters are Spider-Man related. You call it the Spider-Man, the Sony, whatever the hell you call it. And I do blame Sony. I don't blame the director. I don't think that was CJ Clarkson's choice. And this is, by the way, CJ Clarkson's directorial debut. And after directing many episodes of many hit TV shows, including some Marvel-related shows like Jessica Jones and The Defenders. So Clarkson has a grasp of the superhero world. And there were rumors that Sony changed the script before the shooting and made everyone unhappy with that. And it led to the Dakota Johnson's much talked about press junket interviews and everybody else's, press junket interviews. So I don't blame CJ Clarkson for that. In fact, I applaud that CJ Clarkson finally got to direct a feature film. That is another thing I will say I liked about the movie, because CJ Clarkson is a very talented director. Unfortunately, she had to direct Madam Web. And again, I don't blame her. She's doing the best with what she can with what she has. I mentioned Dakota Johnson. Let's talk about Dakota Johnson. Now, Johnson, known for her independent work. So appearing in this is a pretty big deal. I think everyone knows that was a big deal. She's known for independent work. She doesn't do a lot of big studio movies, if any. She loves the independent movie scene. Great. Good for her. But her portrayal as Cassie Webb is odd because she's a paramedic that doesn't like people. There are plenty of other jobs you could have given her. You could have given her no job. You could have given her just the thing that she's been trying to find out what happened to her mother this whole time. But no, you make her kind of hate her mother in the movie, and you give her a job as a paramedic where there's a scene that she's interacting with a little girl, and the little girl gives her a picture, and Cassie Webb is like, what do I do with this? Like, what am I supposed to do with it? And Ben Parker's like, take it like a normal human being and just throw it away when she's not looking. Why? Why would you write her like that? It's just so dumb. And anytime she's interacting with the girls that she saves, which I'll get to in a minute, it's always with like an irritation or an annoyance, and it never changes until the end. It changes like right before the third act, where she finally like warms up to him. After she disappears, there's a point in the movie where she disappears, where she leaves the girls and she flies out of the country, even though she's on the run. So let's get to the three girls, the future Spider Women, who are only seen in their Spider Woman personas and visions for literally like 2 minutes of the movie. No hints of them getting their powers. No hints of them being like, oh, I'm going to name myself, Spider Woman or, anything like that. No, none of that. We get none of that. They are just normal, regular teenage girls. Sydney Sweeney, Isabella Marced, Celeste O'Connor. Their characters are not fully developed at all. They have their own traits. Sweeney plays the timid, shy one, which is like an odd choice for Sydney Sweeney. I mean, yes, this was her first studio movie, but even though Anyone But You came out first, but she plays this timid, shy one, which it seems like she's always holding back, and it's not, that great of a choice. Merced is the smart one of the group, because she mentions, she talks about science and everything at a certain point in the movie. And O'Connor is the one with the attitude. The attitude to the point where it's like, yeah, okay, you're, it's teenage angst, but it's also like, you're annoying. Like, just be quiet. And I never really cared for them. I didn't. I never, even though I should have, I never really cared for them. There's a scene where, again, the characters are on the run, and there's a reason for that. And they had to hide from the villain, but they go instead because Cassie leaves them in the woods because she wants to go. This is not before she disappears and goes to a different country. This is something else entirely. She disappears to go back into the city to grab some things, and then she's going to go come back for the girls. So the girls are alone in the woods, and they saw a diner up the road. So they go to the diner, even though they're on the run, and they proceed to make the biggest scene you possibly can. Why? You're on the run. There's someone out there trying to kill you. And instead of being no, we're going to go eat and climb on top of a table and dance to Britney Spears' Toxic, because the movie comes out in the early 2000s, when that song was popular when it first came out. So that song plays throughout the movie and that scene. And it's just there's a lot of dumb decisions made in this movie. Just another pass of the script. At this new script, because there was an old script that was rumored to be out there. The one thing I liked with all of them, with Dakota Johnson and the girls, it, again, happens right before the third act in the movie. This is when Dakota Johnson finally warms up to the girls, and she's teaching them CPR, which does play a factor later on in the movie. That's it. That's the only really good scene between all of them. Otherwise, it's just no, you guys are all annoying. Why are you all with each other? Then there's the villain, Sims, played by Tahar Rahim. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Talented actor from other movies, not in Madam Web. You want to know why he's not a talented actor in Madam Web? Because every single line of his dialogue is ADR'd. It is dubbed. I don't know what it is. Again, this could be because of the script changes that they made, but every line of dialogue he has is ADR'd. There are moments, literal moments in the movie. It happens very early on in the movie, and that should tell you everything about his character and this movie as a whole. But there are literal moments in this movie where his lips are not even moving, and he's spewing lines of dialogue. His lips are moving, and they don't match with what he's saying. I could keep going, but it's Madam Web, And I don't care about Madam Web. If you're telling me to choose the worst movie of the year so far, it is Madam Web. Yes, more than, I know a lot of you hated Argyle. I think Madam Web is worse. I think Madam Web is by far the worst movie I've seen this year, and there's gonna have to be a lot of shitty movies to come out to knock Madam Web off that list, because Madam Web, again, it's so bad. It's so bad on every single level. And that is not me being a hater. That is not me being like, oh, women can't lead movies. No, women can lead movies. We've seen it. There is a movie led by women that I will talk about a little later that I loved, that I really, really liked. Well, I was just say loved. I really, really liked. But it's still very good. And the thing with Madam Web, it's not like, oh, it's like Marvel. It's just the overthink. No, it's not even an superhero thing. It's like where there's so many superhero movies, properties. No, it's not that. It's just Madam Web is a bad movie. It's a bad script. Sony changed the script of what they originally had, which sounded better, because originally the movie was going to be about Sims going after May Parker, and it was up to Cassie to protect her in some way. So it was going to be kind of just a more toned down version of what we got. And unfortunately, the version that we got was not good. And I'm going to stop talking about Madam Web because I feel my blood pressure rising. So yeah, that was February for all of you guys. Let us move on to March. All right, so these first few in March, I'm just going to breeze past because there's not too much to say, especially after going at it with Madam Web. So the first thing in March I want to talk about is Imaginary. Hey, Blumhouse, you okay? You doing all right? Because this and Night Swim, which we did talk about in January, if you want to go back and hear my thoughts on that, are not exactly starting off great. There was potential with Imaginary, and even potential with Night Swim as well, but they kind of just let it slip away, and the twists here in Imaginary really don't work, especially the human one, because that one is so out of left field, and with the aftermath of what that twist is, it didn't feel right. It ends in a way that it's not that it makes you feel like you're not supposed to have a certain emotion when what happens. And it's probably not what they intended, or if it was, they did a very poor job of trying to execute it, because you're not, I guess I don't want to spoil it, but it involves something happening to them that you expect is going to happen to them. And then when it does, it just feels comedic. It feels like, oh no, we're supposed to not necessarily feel for this person, but you're supposed to be like, oh, that's unfortunate for them. But it's more like it just comes off as playful, and it's not supposed to. It's supposed to come off as horrifying, and it doesn't in any sort of way. So that's all I have to say about Imaginary. Let's move on to Kung Fu Panda 4. I have liked the Kung Fu Panda movies. They have been very, very good, and to even great. Even there's not really a bad Kung Fu Panda movie out there. When this one was announced, I was a little surprised, especially when they announced that it was coming out this year in March. And when the release was approaching for March, I wasn't really seeing a lot of promotion for it. Maybe I just wasn't watching the right stuff, but I didn't feel like there was a lot of promotion for Kung Fu Panda 4. So that made me a little worried about, the end all product. Maybe, they weren't confident in it either. And they were like, let's just, not bury it, but let's not promote it as much. So, only, people that really care about it and people that, the kids are going to be the only ones that go watch it. That said, the movie itself was fine. I didn't feel like I was having as much fun as I did with the other movies. The humor in it is, sometimes it can be really, really good, and sometimes it just falls really flat, which is, it's a kid's movie, granted, but that humor in it was very good. Overall, I don't think it's the best of the series, but like I mentioned earlier, this series doesn't really necessarily have a bad movie. I would say that this one is probably on the weaker side, but it's still not a bad movie, and it's still not a bad movie in that franchise. The biggest thing for me coming out of the movie was the cover that Tenacious D does at the end credits. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, either go watch the movie and then sit through the end credits and find out, or you can just, Google it. But that cover is really, really good. I will just say I have that on my playlist because I wasn't expecting it. I think I saw a little bit like online when the movie came out on Friday or that Friday rather. And I was like, well, why? Like, this is weird. Like, do they have a new album coming out? Like, what's going on? And then I saw the movie. I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, that cover is really good. So I will give them that. If anything, just give them that. Give them that end credit song for that. This next one, I'm not going to talk about too much because everything that could be said about this movie has already been said, and I don't want to be too repetitive of it. And it's Dune Part 2. Everyone had the memes. They were thirsting over Austin Butler's character, the popcorn bucket. You name it, it's been talked about. Personally, I like the movie. I didn't love the movie. Like a lot of people really love this movie. There are people that said they, were going on their 4th, 5th viewing of the movie. And I'm like, more power to you if you really love this movie. I liked it. I didn't love it. I didn't, love it to the length that a lot of you did. I still think it's a good movie. Visually, it is beautiful to look at as well. But I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of missing out, but also not really. Maybe that's just me. But again, nothing bad. I don't want you coming out and being like, oh, you didn't like Dune Part 2? Like, no, I like Dune Part 2. I don't love it like a lot of you guys love it. But that doesn't mean I don't like it. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy it. That doesn't mean it's not going to be on my end of the year list, because this is definitely going to be at the end of the year list. Guaranteed. All right, moving on. Love Lies Bleeding. I did a very brief feeling while watching Love Lies Bleeding on Twitter, obviously after I watched the movie. And I said it didn't feel like an A24 movie. And then a certain thing happens, and then we get a little deeper, and I thought, oh, there it is. And then we get to the ending of the movie. And I'm like, there's the A24 I know and love right there. There you go. I did like Love Lies Bleeding. I thought Kristen Stewart and Katie O'Brien were great in the movie, with O'Brien being the standout of the movie. Seriously, put her in more things. And ironically, when I was putting this outline together for this particular part, they announced that she was going to be in the next Mission Impossible movie, which is great because she's awesome. She's great in this. She's great, and she's been great in the other things she's been a part of. Which now, of course, as I say it out of my head, not in my outline, because I was like, no, of course I remember what she was in. She was in the Star Wars. I don't know if she was in the movie. I think she was in the show. She was in the shows. I don't remember if she was in the movies or not. I can't remember. But she's been in stuff before. She was in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I know we all try to forget that, but she was in there. She plays one of the main resistant fighters, and I can't think of her name. But they're great in this. And for her to, kind of be, quote unquote, the lesser star of the movie, because obviously you have Kristen Stewart, for her to outshine Kristen Stewart, that says a lot about her. And she does it very, very well. Rose Glass directed this, with the last thing that she directed being Saint Maud. And that ending of that movie, if you've never seen Saint Maud, or if you know at least about the ending, that is something, and I think that was one of the big contributing factors of me being like, okay, is this movie going to be as good? Is it going to be, what crazy thing does she have in store, considering what she did with Saint Maud? And obviously those two very different movies. Saint Maud is kind of like a thriller, horror movie, and Love Lies Bleeding is more of a thriller, mystery, lesbian romance, because these two characters are obviously lesbians in the movie, and it is kind of a love story in its own right. Or not kind of a love story, it is a love story in its own right. I would recommend it just because it is very good, and just to see two of the, I would just say, even though, Katie O'Brien is probably not a household name. She probably will be very, very soon. And Kirsten Stewart, obviously a household name wherever she goes. But I would recommend it just because you can see two of the best women working right now in this movie. And it's very, very good. And you got Ed Harris in there as well. Dave Franco appears in it. He has a not a very small role, but he has a supporting role in the movie, which is also very good. I would recommend it. The one thing little story about this, it was me and my brother, 10:30 showing on, I think it was a Sunday, and we went, I think was it Sunday or Saturday? I can't remember now, but it was a 10:30 show regardless on the weekend. Went in there, that was going to be me and him. Nope, one other guy showed up, literally sat right in front of us. Why? It's a whole empty ass theater. You sit right in front of us. Why? Just why? I know you'll probably never get to this, but why? You'll never hear this. That guy will never hear this podcast, but why? Why right in front of us? Why? That makes no sense. You have a whole movie theater. Anyway, moving on to the next movie. Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. I will get to Godzilla. I almost said Godzilla. I will get to Godzilla. Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. I like Frozen Empire when it's firing on all cylinders. When the humor works, when they're busting ghosts, it works very, very well. When it slows down, it becomes a little bit too slow-paced. And it also feels like they kind of regressed on some of the character development from the last movie when it comes to McKenna Grace's character, Phoebe. I feel like they really drew her out a little bit in that first movie. And yeah, obviously in sequels, you want to draw all the characters out even more. And they were kind of doing that with her a little bit, but they also kind of went... Again, they kind of regressed a little bit with her because she's like, she's obviously super smart and, she's capable of doing stuff on her own. And in this movie, they were still treating her like she was just a little kid. And it felt like that was a development we probably needed in Afterlife as opposed to the development we needed in a sequel. So that was kind of one of the things that immediately jumped out to me. And I do that, and I say that rather, not do that. I say that rather because I liked Afterlife. But Frozen Empire just felt like it was starting over with the characters. And now that they're in New York. And there's a lot of things in Frozen Empire that it does that it doesn't feel like it's a sequel to Afterlife. It feels like more like a sequel to Ghostbusters. And you're getting these characters that you kind of know about, and they're just getting thrown into the story. I, again, don't want to get too into it, especially considering this one is one of our newer movie. I don't want to spoil much about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, but there's just, it feels like, I don't want to say you need another review over the script. It just feels like they needed to tighten it up a little bit to make things, work more clearly and just stamp some things out to just make the story more, not necessarily better, just more condensed. Because I feel like there's also a lot going on in the movie that doesn't need to. And then you have a really rushed third act. Like, you can chop off some minutes in the middle of the movie where it slows down. There's things you don't really need, just so you can have a little bit more time in that third act, because that third act is super rushed. It's so super rushed. It's like you almost feel like they're running out of money or they're running out of time, and they're like, no, we just got to shoot this thing as soon as possible and get it out there. So I don't like that part. Especially considering that I do like these characters and I want to see these new characters. But yeah, that third act was really not that great. So, but I still relatively enjoyed Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Did I like it more than Afterlife? I don't think I did. All right, next movie, Roadhouse. I am far removed from the original Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze. So my experience watching the remake was very middle ground. It was very balanced. That said, this remake is a dumb, fun, popcorn action movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Is it a great movie? Not really. Is it a fun movie? Absolutely. Yes, it is a fun movie. This movie never tries to take itself too seriously. Jake Gyllenhaal looks to be enjoying himself as a disgraced MMA fighter, Dalton, who is nice until he isn't. He's a nice guy until he isn't. And then you bring in Conor McGregor's Knox, which has been memed everywhere, who just elevates the ridiculousness of this movie and is having fun hamming it up in his performance. And there's a line in this movie where he tells Jake Gyllenhaal at one point, says, "There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with me too." And I think in any other movie, that line would have been really, really good. But the fact that it's in Roadhouse and it's said by Conor McGregor, it doesn't take away anything. It just feels like was there a better movie in this one? Like what's going? I don't know what's going on. But anyway, the action in the movie, which is really the only reason probably to watch Roadhouse, is pretty decent. The only real complaint I have about the action, and I think it's the complaint that a lot of people have been having about it, is that it seems like there are moments that are too fake. And the reason for that is that they developed this new technique which layers 3 different takes to make it look like there's actually connecting on the punches, like they're actually punching each other. And the results obviously need some tweaking. So, they do a take where it's like there's nobody there and an actor swinging. Then they do a take with the actor there, but the guy's not swinging. And then they do a take with like a pillow, like a green screen pillow, and with the actor that's punching, they actually do the punch, and then they just layer all 3 of them together. Very broad sense of how it is. They released a video explaining everything, so if you want to go check that out, you can. It looks okay sometimes. Other times, it just looks like the characters are rubber, which is not what you want in an action movie, and it takes away from the action moments. Overall, like I mentioned, it is a dumb, fun, popcorn action movie. Is it a great movie? No. Are you going to have fun with it? You're probably going to have a lot more fun with it than saying it's an actual good movie. If anything, you get to watch Jake Gyllenhaal beat the crap out of somebody. Moving on, Immaculate. I don't have too much to say about Immaculate. It's fine. Nothing too much to really talk about. It obviously takes inspiration from the 70s and 80s movies where a young American woman goes to Europe, barely knowing the language, and then evil satanic things start to happen to her. And this is only the 3rd thing that I have seen Sydney Sweeney in. Obviously, the first one being Madam Webb. Second one being Anyone But You, and then this. She's fine in this, and the whole movie really leads to a one-take close-up of her screaming at the end. The movie's fine. There's a horror movie. There's another horror movie that came out that's going to be a part of the April Roundup that I thought was much better. And I'm talking about The First Omen. This movie is very much a slow burn take. While The First Omen, I don't want to give too much away of what I'm going to say over there, but The First Omen is much more my pace as opposed to Immaculate. I don't mind slow burn movies. Immaculate just wasn't it for me personally. So there you go. The next movie, Late Night with the Devil. I know this movie got a lot of crap before the release because it was revealed that the movie used AI images, and there were people calling for boycotts. There were people calling for people to not support this movie in any sort of way, even though the AI images that you see are for 3 short seconds, about 3 or 4 times throughout the movie. And the team behind the movie revealed that they did use it. And I can't remember if they actually did the AI images and then they went back into those images and did some tweaks or something. I can't remember exactly what they did, but they did admit to using the AI images. They did admit to going in and trying to, fix it a little bit and do what they could, but they're still there. And it should be noted that the movie, not that it matters because they could have gone in and changed everything after the fact, but the movie was shot before the strikes happened. Before the strikes, obviously, one of the many things that the strikes were about the use of AI. Again, they could have gone back and changed the images, hired somebody and everything like that. But this movie was super independent. You watch the opening titles. One of the main things I saw on Twitter were people using the Family Guy clip of Peter and Brian going to the movies and all the different studio logos that pop up before a movie, what makes it look like it's a movie's about to start, but no, it's another movie studio logo. It's very real. I saw those clips before I went to go watch the movie. I was like, oh, that's funny. That can't be really true, right? And then I went to go watch the movie. I was like, oh, no, it actually is true. There's a lot of studios behind this movie. So there you go. But regardless of all of that, the movie itself is pretty good. It starts off like a documentary showing off the career of David Dastmalchian's character and basically setting the stage for the rest of the movie. And the movie plays off showing the last episode of the late night talk show, The Night Owl, which David Dastmalchian's character, I'm mispronouncing his last name. I know that. You don't need to tell me. But it's his late night talk show. And when the show goes to commercial, it cuts, quote unquote, to like this documentary found footage aspect showing the behind the scenes stuff. That is basically where the story of the movie is kind of getting, branched out and developed. I don't want to give too much away because this movie is coming out on Shudder, or already is out on Shudder if you want to go check it out. But it is one of those movies where I think the less you know about the movie, the better, or at least will make those big moments more impactful, because Late Night with the Devil, it really moves. There's never really a slow moment in the movie. It keeps going and never stops until the end. The other cool thing about the movie is the practical effects. They are very, very good. And when they happen, they are very jarring. There's one, obviously, particular one that I think everyone's talking about, and it is truly horrifying. But it will shock you, and it's meant to shock you, and it's meant to throw you off. So kudos to the practical effects department of that movie. Also, special shout out to the team of that movie for mentioning the town of Berwyn, which is literally the town right next to where I live. So that's pretty cool. So extra points for Late Night to the Devil for that one. All right, so let's move on to the last movie in the March Roundup, or I guess this whole podcast, the February March Roundup, Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, or Godzilla and Kong, The New Empire. This movie is exactly what we wanted. More Titans beating the crap out of each other. That's it. That's what we wanted, right? You guys don't care about humans. All right, we'll give you more Titans. We obviously have to have the humans characters in there. But we have to have, you guys wanted more Titan action. We got you more Titan action. The lore gets expanded. It's over the top in a good way, so it knows what it is and never tries to be anything it isn't. It doesn't try to be a serious movie. This is about giant beasts beating the crap out of each other. If the action is great, it's the best, biggest popcorn movie you can get and want. There's literally a scene where King Kong grabs that little one that we see, the little orange monkey that we see. He has a name. I forgot his name right now. Suko, I think that's what his name is. He grabs him, flings him around, and beats the crap out of other gorillas around him. Come on. If you don't like that, I don't think we can be friends. I honestly don't think we can be friends. Anyway, yes, it is flawed. Not that, but other parts of the movie. The human parts of the movie and some other stuff, it is flawed. It does get a little slow in the middle, right before the third act, and even at the beginning of the third act, it gets a little slow. It's very slow paced in a lot of places, so it has some pacing issues. But I didn't care. I had fun with it. Is it dumb? Yes, it's dumb. But is it over the top? Yes, it's over the top. Is it too ridiculous for its own good sometimes? Yes, but so were a lot of the other Godzilla movies back in the day. So don't pretend like there wasn't some flawed aspects and some like questionable moments in past Godzilla movies. Don't act like that. Don't be that person, because we all know it, and there's a lot of history to go back and look at. Remember when you used to have fun at the movies? What happened to you? Who hurt you? I mean, I know the movies that hurt you, but who hurt you that you can't enjoy movies anymore? Anyway, I liked it. Yes, it's flawed. Yes, it's dumb, but it's a big popcorn action movie, and that's what I want. That's really what I want at the end of the day, especially with these movies. It's the Monsterverse. Who cares? All right, that's it. That's all the movies I got. I don't know how long this will end up being, so I apologize in advance for any crazy length time. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I promise I won't do it. I'm already working on the April roundup as well. That might come out in 2 parts. I'm not positive yet. Don't quote me on that, but I'm already working on that as well. I got the summer movie season preview podcast coming with a guest, which is great. I'm going to try to get a few more, but at the time of this recording, I'm going to try to get a few more, but I already got one confirmed, which is awesome. And I will try to release this before that, of course, as well. So yeah, let me know what you thought of these movies. Did you watch any of them? Did you watch all of them? What are your thoughts? You want to talk you want to shoot the breeze on some of these movies? You can find me on all the social media links down below, on, the different podcatchers, wherever you listen to the podcast, whether it be on YouTube or Apple or Spotify or all those other places that we're on. Let me know what you guys thought. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I will try not to have a big break like I did right now with this podcast. yeah, it just, a lot of stuff got in the way. But the summer's coming up. Job will be non-existent at that point. So I'll have a lot more time to podcast and hang out with you guys and do more podcasts and get my voice out there, get my voice back in my own little way. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. Very much appreciate it. Do all the stuff like, follow, subscribe, rate, write a review, all that good stuff. And follow. I already said that. I'm losing my mind. So I'm gonna end it. Thank you guys very much. Have a good one. Have a good one. No matter when you listen to. And remember, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!